Ever wondered how to start a clothing line and gradually turn it into a renowned brand that gets features and collabs? If you've answered yes, then you should definitely watch today's episode. Today we're featuring Rio Estolas, the owner of Throwback Northwest, who currently owns and runs a clothing boutique where he sells his merch and other brands, and he's been featured in Seattle Refined, Evening Magazine, and other publications because of his unique business idea.
Up here is mostly our local vintage. That's kind of what we're known for.
What are the most successful marketing strategies and advertising avenues for you today? That's one big upside for vintage stuff. On an average day, how many units or items do you sell per day? What percentage of your clientele is repeat customers versus new ones? Any tips or tricks for our audience on how to improve on that retention? Today, he's going to share with us how he built a successful clothing brand and how he leveraged collabs with staple brands like Ebbets Field Flannels and Chalkline to grow his business. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and let's go say hi to Rio. Rio, tell us a little bit about your unique story and how you ended up starting Throwback Northwest.
So I kind of learned from a young age how to buy and sell vintage in general and how, the value of buying and selling old stuff in general. My dad had an antique store. I had an older sister who sold vintage. Around 2006, I started stockpiling a bunch of vintage sportswear, created an eBay account and started selling on eBay. And then 2008 opened up my first brick and mortar. I was renting out the back room here. I had a company called Officials Vintage, and I was renting the back room for $500 a month, and I had my own credit card terminal. All during that time, I was working a corporate job.
Wow.
2017 comes around. I decided to go, 100% in the business, and I bought the competitor's shop, which is where we are now, Throwback Northwest, and here we are today.
Rio, some people may think that owning a clothing line, you're doing some form of manufacturing. Are you doing any? If so, what does that cost? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we actually don't do any manufacturing since, like I was saying, 70% of our business is true vintage. So we're doing a lot of sourcing with different wholesalers, sellers, people who are out picking 8 hours a day.
Wow.
I work with guys who buy storage lockers, guys who've just been in the business for a long time and have like warehouses. There's a lot of competition, so it's my job to stay ahead of the game. And I used to fill up carts from Olympia to Bellingham at thrift stores. Wow. I honestly don't even go as much because there's so much competition. You've got 19-year-old kids quitting their day job or to go out full time to thrift.
No way.
There's a lot of people who are in this business. When I started, there was only a handful of us, and the other guys who did it were out of state. Wow. Now there's like tons of kids who sell online. So again,
cool
as far as manufacturing, we do have our own line that we work on. So we do, we buy t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hats, but we don't really get into a whole lot of actual manufacturing. It's more actual, real vintage clothing.
Okay. Rio, let's talk about the initial budget. If I wanted to start a store similar to this, what would it cost me? I know it's location-based, but give us a rough estimate and break that cost down.
Yeah, depending on the location, you're looking at 150 grand probably to start out, 10 to 20K a month for the storefront in Capitol Hill here in Seattle.
Right. What are the other costs maybe involved in that 150,000 that our viewers who are new to this would need to plan on and expect?
Sure, the build out, usually you'd have a build out on the store, the furnishings in the store, inventory, startup costs for the inventory, computers, marketing.
Out of the 100 to 150, I'll jump in here real quick. What would you think you'd allocate for actual merchandise, clothing, materials, etc.?
20 range.
Okay. Out of the 1 to 150 budget?
Yeah. Okay. A lot of that is
potentially
actual lease and getting into a place.
Let's talk about sales. On an average day, how many units or items do you sell per day? What's one day that really set records? And what does that translate into dollars?
10 to 15 items per day. One of the busiest days was about 5,500.
Wow, that's a good day.
And that translates to about 3,500.
Okay. What an incredible, cool shop you've got. Show us a little bit around, just so we know what's what, how it's arranged, and
For
the
sure.
different merchandise you've got.
For
Maybe
sure.
starting with this wall here.
Right now, these are some of the new hats. The Northwest is a collab we did with a company that we just recently partnered up with. So the Ebbets Field Flannel Throwbacks Northwest collab hats.
Nice.
And then we've got the jackets, and then we've got these wool flannel jerseys. These are all made, USA made, locally here in Seattle in a warehouse. Up here is mostly our local vintage. That's kind of what we're known for. We've been a staple for our local sportswear: Huskies, Sonics, Seahawks, Mariners. We always, keep our rack stacked with that. That's kind of, like I said, that's kind of what we're known for. I think one thing that separates us is they're all mostly dead stock, meaning they're old stock, but they're new. So I don't really buy used hats.
Interesting.
Which is also something I think that separates us, is that you go into some vintage shops and it's a bunch of used, and this is more curated, and like I said, it's dead stock, most of the hats.
Now, I don't know what dead stock is because I'm new to this industry. What is that?
Sure. So dead stock is old stock that's unworn, and sometimes it's either unworn or also has the tags. Stock that's been maybe sitting somewhere, maybe it was in a warehouse for 30 years, so that's considered dead stock.
Okay. What about repeat customers? I'm curious, what percentage of your clientele is repeat customers versus new ones? And what do you do to keep them coming back? Any secrets, tips that you're willing to share with us?
Sure. So, yeah, I'd say 60 to 70% are repeat customers. We've been here, like I said, 12 years. The key to keeping those customers is just treating everybody like they're the last customers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. We also give customers special VIP codes sometimes that we send out through like an email list that can get certain discounts that wouldn't apply to everybody. As far as acquiring new customers, is social media, doing events is more for marketing. We do pop-up events, work with other shops, cross-promote. Again, working with community.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
What are the most successful marketing strategies and advertising avenues for you today?
Well, for us, it's really been social media. Instagram sends about 75% of our customers to our website.
Okay.
And then just in the last couple of years, we've had a great deal of success through Instagram, to where we're sending invoices out directly from Instagram. Driving traffic to the store, again, location is everything. I've had multiple stores, so this whole block here is known for different retail, different streetwear shops. It's kind of a destination,
Gotcha.
East Pike, where people come. They know they're gonna stop at 35th Skate Shop. They're gonna stop at Bait, the streetwear, Likelihood around the corner, and so it's kind of a community of independent sellers.
Yeah, that certainly helps.
And yeah, it when you have other like businesses, it definitely brings attraction to us. There's multiple stores that I send people to, and there's multiple stores that send customers here on a daily basis.
Nice.
So that's huge. I also have my own in-store line that I work on, and I do have stuff here that I'm working on. And I've actually got a hat running right now.
Okay.
If you want to check that out.
Is this for a customer?
So this is for in-store stuff. This is just going to be a throwbacks, our own in-store line.
You zoom in and look at the action going on. That's pretty cool. So this is your logo. This is
our logo.
not a lot of room, but I guess you don't need much to.
No, this is all we need. Yeah, we're good.
creative
Yeah, for sure. This is all we need. Yeah, I mean, I do have a storage also for even more stock, but we have enough space to do what we need to do, for sure.
Anything else you want to point out that's kind of cool and
just while we're here, I guess I'll show you this. This is one of the jackets I was really happy with that we did the collaboration I mentioned with Chalkline, which have been in the game since the 80s. Also, they were like similar to Starter brand. They made a lot of the classic old sports jackets, like the satin jackets, but they're still in existence to today. And we did this jacket here, collaboration with them. It's one of my favorite pieces we've done.
What's the cost if I were to buy one right now?
These are $130.
$130, okay.
Yep.
Rio, so a lot of your customers are, word of mouth referrals, repeat customers, right?
Right.
Any tips or tricks for our audience on how to improve on that retention?
For sure. Something that goes a long way, giving free little cards, stickers, keychains, things like that. You know, I've bought things and got like a little note, and it was memorable. You know, like someone took the time to do a little something extra. You know, so we'll throw in like free gifts, especially if it's like a repeat customer. We might throw in one of our shop T-shirts in the package. Somebody who's hit a certain dollar amount, will toss in a couple of things for them. I think that goes pretty far. People like that stuff.
Yeah, like if you give me a keychain, I put it on my keys, I always see the brand. I
Absolutely.
never forget about you guys. I mean, it definitely makes you come back. That's a good one. Rio, if somebody wants to get their product line into a major retail store, or maybe that major retail store's website, what does the process look like? You've probably gone through one or two.
Absolutely. The first thing is, I would say you want to make sure, create a buzz for your brand at first. A lot of people start off with doing like pop-up shops because you got to get the word out there, whether it's on your Instagram account or whether you are at a market. But I think one of the best places for like brands starting off is to do pop-up markets, because a lot of bigger brands and some people looking for different companies may go out to markets and shop for these local brands, and then just going to stores you like. If there's a certain boutique you like, go talk to them. Right. I think some people are intimidated by certain shops. I've been in a few different stores in the area. There was a streetwear, one of the longest running streetwear stores in Seattle called Goods. We did a pop-up shop there, and we did really well. But at the time, there was no one else did a pop-up shop there, because I just think no one else ever asked to do it. So
what is a pop-up shop in a step?
So a pop-up shop, so say another company, and I've done this too, where we have another brand or another seller, they come and set up in our shop. And so maybe I give them the room there they could rent for a month, or they set up out front. And then there's also markets, indoor and outdoor. My partners threw something in Tacoma called ThriftCon, which brought people from different states, and it's just different brands and different vintage sellers can sell. You know what I mean?
Right. Sort of like collab. You're collaborating with that store to.
Right. Correct.
Rio, so you've got a lot of branded logos here. I would imagine licensing would be pretty expensive for that.
Learning by working with these companies, I have learned that it is very expensive. Luckily, I personally don't have to deal with that. The companies that I work with are actually handling that. And the perks to selling vintage is I don't have to worry about that.
Nice. That's one big upside for vintage stuff. You just find it, sell it. You don't have to deal with licensing.
Absolutely.
I love it. Last but not least, what would be a couple pieces of advice to our viewers who are just passionate about apparel, clothing, they want to get into this business? What would be a couple of things you tell them?
Study what you want to do. Study like the brands that you like. Study them. Success leaves clues. I study other people who have been in the business, and I've learned a lot by doing that. Knowing what vintage is, how to pick it, it's a skill set like anything else. It does take time. It's not something that you can just go out and start picking vintage. There's actually probably books now that shows certain tags and textures of garments. Once you start learning how the business works, you can go into a shop and you start seeing colors and types of fabric, and just by looking at the fabric, you know what it is by looking at it. I've been, like I said, pretty much in vintage world since I was a young kid, so it's kind of just came natural to me and being around it. But for someone getting into it, yeah, study. There's a lot of guys now doing Instagram shows on Instagram, selling, doing live auctions, selling T-shirts. You can kind of learn what some of the top vintage stuff is right now by just kind of looking on Instagram.
Well, that's a wrap for part one. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Make sure you check out part two. The link is going to be in the description below, or hit the thumbnail right here. And being in the vintage sales business, you don't have to pay any licensing fees. Think about that. Hope you guys took away a lot and really enjoyed it. Thank you.